Hey everybody, Happy New Year and welcome to our first webinar of 2019. This is a bit of a nepotism show, this one. So it's me hosting the webinar with special guests, me. And some of you that'll be joining the webinar that know me know that that's a little bit of a joke, but also sort of serious. But hopefully you guys find today really useful and valuable. And you've got to be kind to me because I'm hosting and I'm also the webinar guest. So you have to help me out as much as possible. Don't leave me hanging. So straight away, first and foremost, always welcome back to our first timers. Say hi. Let us know in the chat box that you're here. I'm going to be clicking around like a lunatic today trying to find everything. Matty Grote believes I have the best guest. I do, mate. Thank you. But I haven't had you on the show yet. Remind me to do that. Anybody that hasn't been on a webinar with us before, use the chat box, use the Q&A. I'm going to try and throw as much stuff at you as possible. It's a fairly chunky session today, so I'm going to do my best to get it done inside the hour. I can hang for a little bit longer at the end for anybody that wants to tough it out and get through. We've got some polls, just a couple to do today. Q&A, no product flogging for me today other than to get right to the very end and put a special offer for anybody that hasn't registered for LTMA 19 yet, which is happening in about 3 weeks. What idiot puts on a conference? Anyway, enough about that. Let's actually get on to the session itself. So we've got 50 people in here now, which is cool, just about. And some first timers. Megan Hodge, welcome. First time she's driving us. She's a passenger, which is cool. I'm like, that's some very illegal texting and chatting while you're driving. So as always, guys, the session is going to be recorded, or it already is recording. I'll chuck it up into the YouTube channel. And if you haven't already, I am desperately trying to get up to 100 YouTube subscribers on our YouTube channel so that they allow me to change the URL from the world's worst ugly string of text to one where we can actually name it. I think we're about 75. So I've just chucked the link into the chat box. If you can click on that and then subscribe, that'd be awesome. 2 reasons. 1, it allows us to change the name. 2, it allows you to get all of the webinars. So I've created a webinar playlist. And depending on your feedback, I reckon we're going to smash a lot more of these out. I've got an ambitious target to do one of these a fortnight. Just realized my button was undone. That was very unprofessional of me. One of these a fortnight with guests. I really feel like 2019 is the year of the webinar. It probably was 10 years ago, but anyway. So if you're interested, we're going to be doing them every fortnight. And obviously, if you miss any of them, the best place to get it is in the actual YouTube playlist. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the screen on. Hopefully that works. But before we do any of that, can you guys just let me know in the chat box that you can see the goal setting process slide? Any of you just want to chuck that up for me, that would be awesome. And I will grab. Yep, you got it. Sweet. Okay. So today's session, as it's, look at the love coming through. Yes, 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 yes. Great. Okay. What we've got today is all about goal setting and goal planning. So we've got a fair bit to do, but before we do that, I'm going to kick off with a poll. I just want to know what you guys are already doing now. So let me see if I can get this to run. Question number 1, and anyone that's done polls with us before knows, you'll see that popping up now. We need to get a 75% vote before we moved on. The advice movement is all about taking action and doing shit differently, and that means participating. No sitting on hands, no not voting, we need to vote. So this one's all about our current or your current goal planning process. So really, really quick, there's only 3 questions here. So first of all, I want to know a little bit about you guys because it's going to help us shape. I've got a bit of a view that multi-advisor practices don't do this as well as solo advisor practices, and I'll talk about that later. And if you're not in an advice practice for your mortgage broker or a coach, just fill that out there as well. Next question, what is your current goal planning process? And you can tick as many of these as you want. So what process? We don't do goal planning at all. We do some goal planning, but it's a little bit ad hoc and it's driven by the client. We do it with our clients now, but we don't charge for it explicitly, or we do it and we charge a fee for it. And votes are starting to hammer through. Thank you guys for doing that for me. And then the last question, for those that are doing goal planning, how do you do it? Old school, we use the goals from the fact find, unfortunately, is winning. And we are going to find a way to get everybody out of that, because there's nothing that kills a good goal planning session like using a fact find. We do it, but use software. No one's voting for that. And we use our own software templates to do this. So we're at our magic 75, but the votes are still coming in, which is awesome. We'll let that run for another couple of seconds and then share the results and then crack into today's webinar. We're up to 78, 81. Everyone's voting today. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. And for those that can't, you might be driving cars. You just don't have the ability to do it, or you're just listening in. I reckon we've capped out. So I'm going to close that polling now and share the results with everyone. So you should be able to see this. Okay, so a lot of solopreneurs on the call today, and a couple of 2+. Actually some bigger firms as well. All right, so we've got a bit of a mix. Current goal planning process. So majority are doing it, but not charging for it explicitly, which is pretty much what I thought. And if we add the two together, we've got some doing it sporadically, and a couple that are actually charging a fee, but a few that aren't doing it yet at all. Bloody fact finds. Okay, so this is pretty much what I thought. And it's no surprise that how terrible is it, Steve entering first official rant for 2019, that out of the thousands of dollars, hi Midwinter, you know I love you guys, but out of the thousands of dollars, yourself included, all of the bloody software, none of them give us goal planning, even though we all want it in there. 0% use software to do this. So, all right, let's find a way to get this done today. So I'm going to close down that poll and we're going to crack on to this. So remember, guys, you got the Q&A as well. I'm going to struggle to read Q&As while I'm talking, so maybe just use the chat function for me as we move through. And just we should be moving through there. Someone just give me a real quick, just letting me know we're on the second slide. We should be, but I want to make sure we're moving together. And if you guys are putting your hands up, that might be an accident. Just pop it back down because I can't answer raised hands. Yep, Emily says we're good to go. Just use the chat box or the Q&A. All right, what we're going to cover. Anyone that's done any of my courses before knows that I'm a huge advocate of win with clients. So we shouldn't do anything in our business unless it's a value for the business and a value for the client. And I always start with the value for the business first, because at the end of the day, this is your business. Yes, it's important to do stuff that's valuable for your clients, but if it's not valuable for your business, you shouldn't be doing it. So we're going to look at that first. Then we're going to look at the value from a client's point of view, what you actually include in a goal planning session. And as we're doing this, I want you guys to fire comments through to me in the chat box as well around what you're including. If there's anything different, the process. So what do we actually include? When do we do it? This whole concept of what do they get and what does it cost? So positioning the fees versus the value. And then at the end, next steps, how we can help you guys and girls as we move through. Okay, the value of a goal planning session for your business. And this is where you start firing through anything in the chat box or questions as you go. And guys, I'll bank the questions and I'll use them in different bits and pieces. So if you've got a bigger, longer question, fire it in there in the Q&A. Okay, so apart from the fact that your clients want you to help them with this, it helps to break the perception that advice is really just financial product flogging. So I know I've got myself in shit from saying this a couple of times from a couple of the old mates who got quoted in an IFA article for saying that the industry wraps a layer of advice over the top of product advice. And I think, unfortunately, that's the perception. I'm not saying that it's the reality. And I think everybody on this call doesn't do that, because you wouldn't be here if you did. But the perception is, and that's the problem, especially with the Royal Commission as well, right? We've got financial advice is just retirement advice or insurance advice or investment advice. And whilst goal planning and goals ultimately might end up with retirement planning advice or retirement advice, insurance advice, investment advice, if you're having a goal planning session with your clients and you do it the right way, and as you see the way that we go through it, there is minimal to no involvement with any financial products. And in fact, when we're getting the data from the client to run the session, we're actually not talking about any of those products. So it helps you break that perception right up front. Huge reason why we did it is to weed out the tire kickers. So if anyone read the webinar blurb, and I know I've spent some time with some of you as well, one-on-one, we used to give all of this stuff away for free, right? And so we used to spend a whole heap of time up front with our clients, mapping out their goals, working out what they wanted, and then we'd go to the full fee. And the problem was that we were giving away so much time, probably about 3 hours before we charged for our initial financial planning fee, which in our process is the money management plan or the budgeting, the cash flow stuff, and that's $1,000, right? So we were giving all of this away for free. And we found that our conversions were okay. Like, they're still good, like 70, 80%, but like, why we felt like there were people that were coming through that our gut instinct says they're not going to commit, but because we gave that session away for free, they'd always say yes. So it was a huge opportunity for us to test the water and go, well, you know what, let's start charging for this thing and then see what that actually does. And I know I've shared this with you already, but we're at a 95, for the first time ever late last year, we had one person go through goal planning, pay for the goal planning session. And at this stage, they haven't come through for anything else. They're the only person that hasn't done it. So we're sitting at a 95% conversion rate. So whoever pays the $220 fee goes through to either full financial planning or financial planning and mortgage broking with us. We're seeing a lower conversion on our initial chats, and I'll show you our process through into the actual goal planning session of around about 50 to 60%. But that's okay, because all we're burning is 15 minutes on a phone conversation with them. We're not burning 2.5 hours anymore. So that's what I think one of the biggest values from a business point of view is. Yes, the recording is going to be made available, Billy, up on the YouTube channel. And therefore, it saves you an amount of time as well. So apart from the angst of not worrying about, oh, why didn't they come on board, you're saving a crap load of time. Positions the value up front and charging a fee for it. So this is one of the, I think, the real benefits of, especially as we move closer and closer to a fee-for-service, fee-for-advice world. Now, whether you take commissions on insurance products like us, we don't, but on mortgage broking, we still do, because the market, we think it's too hard to do it flat fee for service. But we know the market still thinks there's this huge connection to commissions, and even if it's not right or wrong, but there's also this, we're pushing closer and closer to this full fee for service model. And I think having the ability to charge a smaller fee, if you've never charged a fee up front before, $220 is an easier hurdle for you to jump and for the client to jump. So it allows us to do that. And it also forces us to position the value as well. And I'll show you how we're doing that. And enables you to use a mix of new school and old school technology. So we're using videos, we're using virtual meetings in our process, plus we do face-to-face if they want that. And then we're using bloody Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, as we've already talked about, the technology's not there. So it allows you to do both. And the video, our purpose, philosophy, and process is one of the things that's allowed us to run this session up front, where we used to have to spend a lot more time explaining our process before we did the goal planning session. So I'll go through that with you guys as well. And then it gives you a chance to demonstrate capability and also value of a coach. So I'm going to share some of the slides through our goal planning session, but what I've also done is I'm actually giving you our entire goal planning session PowerPoint template for our families and couples that we use from start to finish, even if there's stuff in there that doesn't relate to goal planning. Like our insurance, our estate planning, our money management, all of that stuff is in the template. And all you got to do at the end is click a link and it's going to be yours. In fact, you know what? While we are doing this, I will paste it in here. So I'm going to go to Bitly and I'm going to grab this now and I'll come back. And if some of you are just hanging out for the slides and you want to bail, knock yourselves out. They're all there, so you can go and grab them. Right now, okay. Again, remember, guys, questions, fire them through. But that's what I think from a business point of view the value is. If you've got any other ideas or any other ways that you think a goal planning session adds value or did add value for your business, and the question I always love asking is, what problem did it solve? What strategic problem did it solve in your business? Throw that into the chat box now so I can share it with everybody else. Actually, you can just share it with everybody else straight away. Righto. From a client point of view, I think everything says this is how they want to start their financial planning conversation. Amanda Pond, who's great, and I love her, she put a question up in or a challenge in the Advice Movement Facey group last week around a property conversation with a client and whether or not it goes into a statement of advice. And there was a whole bunch of debate around whether it should or whether it shouldn't. And I think the unintended consequence of licensees running the way most of us run our practices or very heavily influencing the way we run our advice process is they've connected. The batteries just went flat on my little lamp, so I'm going to be dark side over here now. They've very heavily influenced our process. And the problem is if you disconnected financial planning with a statement of advice, clients don't know about the statement of advice bit, right? And so what happens is we've let the statement of advice drive our financial planning process, which is ridiculous because no one in their right mind, if they were a consumer or a client, would, knowing what a statement of advice actually is, would sit there and go, yeah, I want to have my financial planning process run like that statement of advice document. So I think by having a goal planning session, it forces you to go back to what financial planning actually is with clients. What goals do you want to achieve? What headaches do you want to get rid of? How do we go about that? Oh, you need some financial products to be able to do it? Sure, we can give you advice around that. And legally, that's going to go into a statement of advice. But it allows us to start where the conversation should start in the first place with our clients. It allows them to measure the perceived value of your products and your services. So when I talk about products and services, products is what do they buy from you? Financial advice, money management advice, mortgage broking advice. If you isolate and charge individually for investment advice or retirement planning advice, that's a product. I'm not talking about the underlying end products. The service is how do they get it initially and on an ongoing basis. By charging for this goal planning session, you're effectively allowing them to measure the value because you're giving them some answers in that in that goal planning session. And I'll show you what some of those look like as well. So you're doing some goal boarding stuff, but you're also showing potentially some analysis around their money management, some things that you can do without providing a statement of advice for it because there's no financial product yet. And that's really important because I think this year more than any other years, and again, feel free to share in the chat box if you want, either privately or through the whole group. I reckon our value is being challenged greater now than it ever has. And I reckon we had some fairly shit years where we were challenged anyway. I think everyone with the barefoot investor down influencing, I think the value of a financial planner in the broader Australian population is at an all-time low. And that's saying something because it was fairly low, unfortunately, before that. We can sit back and whinge and bitch and moan and say the industry should be doing more to increase our value and they should stop railing on us and barefoot should give us a fair crack and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's up to us. So I think if you can help demonstrate not just theoretical value, but actual tangible value upfront with a client, it's going to help them choose to come on board with you without any fear that they're going to get ripped off with the fees that they're ultimately going to pay, that you're ultimately going to charge. Another huge benefit is it allows them to get on the same page with each other before committing to you. So this is one of the biggest benefits, I think, for us as a business. And this is why we used to give it all away for free, because we saw how valuable it was. Again, hit me in the chat box. Who's ever had a client or a prospective client, this is a question from me to you, come in for some form of goal planning session, whether it's a fact find discussion, discovery session, and husband and wife aren't on the same page with a goal. And then it makes it very, very difficult, or they've made it difficult to go through the advice document or the financial planning process when they're actually not on the bloody same page. right? And here they come, the floods of marriage, hashtag marriage canceller happens all the time, right? One of the reasons why we built our process was to go, look, at the end of the day, these guys, if it's singles, it's fine, right? And if you get a single that argues with themselves, they're a frigging pain in the ass. But most of the time, it's couples. And we know this. If you got a couple that are going to have an argument around their goals, if you can construct an environment that enables them to facilitate and it enables them to move forward to a resolution, to what we call the action plan. What are you going to physically commit to and work towards in the next 12 months? Then it's a win for them and it's a win for you. You can't leave this open to them. You have to be able to do it with them. And the more you can push them or drag them or guide them through the process, they get on the same page faster. And it's a huge benefit. And I'll walk you through this. And then even better, it's a soft commitment because they're only committing up front to $220 or whatever fee you charge. And at that point, you know what? They go, well, it's only $220. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But 9 times out of 10, our experience, if you do it well, they walk away from the end of it going, not only can these people help us find our goals, find a reason to commit to them, there's a process and a logic that underpins how we're going to go through it. They've proven that they know what they're doing because they're talking about it. It's not the first time they've made it up. Then they tend to obviously go on. And that's what we found with that 95% conversion through to full financial planning clients. Okay, enough of Crawford banging on about the value from a business and a client point of view, because I think everybody's on board with that. You just want to know how the heck do we actually do it. So this is what we include in our goal planning or our goal setting process. So what's really important to them, the values, the mix between short, medium, long-term goals, and then a process. Wish list, into goals board, into action plan, and linking the action plan into the budget, right? So I'm not going to talk about budgeting and cash flow, and everyone's going to go, oh, thank Christ, Steve doesn't shut up about it. But if you can't link the action plan into the budget, all you're doing is selling the dream with no delivery, and you're not going to maintain your high conversions, your high executions, and your referrals off the back of it. So you've got to find a way to link your goal planning process into your budgeting and your cash flow process. And I'm sure you know someone that could help you with that. Moving on, what's really important to you? So I'm not going to take credit for this one. I didn't come up with this. This was based on, did anybody ever get access to the old Zurich goals, values, like advisor flip charty thingy? Anyway, they had a really cool little values card game in there. And whilst they used it for insurance, we used it and then modified it to suit our values process. Because at the end of the day, if the clients don't understand why they want to do the goals that they want to do, they're not ever going to get there. So who's done like any sort of values-based stuff or does values-based stuff with their clients now? And who's done maybe like Bacharach? Let me know which ones you've done. I did Bacharach's model. And if you're not familiar with Bacharach's model, just Google Bacharach values-based. Yeah, Carl Richards is the other big one. I love the theory behind Bacharach's model, but the problem for me is it's built for Americans that have a lot of money, that are just about to retire, and they're standing at the top of their escalator of life, and they turn back around and they look down and go, the meaning of life is, and this is what I want to do, and this is our whole purpose for being. The problem when you got younger clients, especially a business that targets, you know, our average new client age is 30 or 31. They don't know what they're doing on the weekend, let alone what the meaning of life is. So trying to have this sort of intrinsic navel gazing values conversation with them, it didn't work. So what we do is we tweaked it and we embedded a values approach that basically forced them to prioritize around what the heck is actually important to us. And as I've been banging on, I know you guys have been reading this. And here it is. So these are, thank you to Zurich for initially kicking us off, but these are our top 25 values that we give to our clients. And then what we do is we force them to choose 5. So in the process, we're actually going through it with the clients, whether we're doing it live, we're doing it over online. If we're doing it virtually, I'm controlling the mouse and clicking the little buttons. This is a PowerPoint deck. This is all in your slides, guys, that you're going to grab. All we do is we get them To choose 5, yeah, 5 between the two, Joe. So they can start at 8 or 9 or 10, but this is goal setting and goal achievement is all around a process of elimination. Get rid of all the shit you are not going to do and focus on the shit you are actually going to do. And that starts with values as well. You can't have 10 things, or we all believe in all of this stuff. And the problem is it's just so friggin' wishy-washy, no one commits. So we force them to narrow it down to 5. The easiest way for them to do that is start with their overlapping 5. Which things do you share in common? And I've picked the 5 most commonly chosen ones. There is a whole bunch here that rarely, if ever, get chosen. Let's have a look. Rationality, no one chooses. And I also Googled the top 25 values. So this is how we came up with this. Risk, no one chooses as a value. Self-control, no one chooses as a value. The 5 that come up are the 5 most common, and this is for a family. So again, those that don't know much about our business, I deal with all of our old clients, which are people in their late 30s and early 40s, parents of school-age kids. So where they're at is that they're getting ready for the next stage, but they're not quite at it yet. So family's always big. Trying to get some independence back is big, or maintain independence. A lot of my clients are corporates, so they're getting flogged. Leisure is a big thing for them, but they've still got this aspiration to grow. So these are the 5 that come up. Ultimately, if they get to 6 or 7, that's cool. But we would say find 5 of commonality. And if they've got individual ones, you might color code those different. So we use our color coding. We'll use blue and gold as the experience wealth colors to get maybe the 6th and the 7th. And then what you're going to do is you're going to link those through to their goals. And so now we're in the goal part of the process, and I'll show you the whole process in a little bit, right? But before we get to the goal process bit, let's work through this logic of how do you help people set goals? And the younger they are, the more you have to be focused on the today. The older they are, their more mindset is starting to shift towards tomorrow. And challenge me if you don't agree with that statement. If you're targeting Gen X or Gen Y clients, or Gen Y clients in particular, and your whole process is built around retirement planning, you are pushing shit uphill to get them into a goal planning process. You cannot start with the dreaded retirement word for people in their 30s. You've got to have a conversation around it, but it has to be focused on today, forward, medium term, and then into tomorrow. So it's about having short, medium, and long-term goals. And I know I'm teaching some of you how to suck eggs with this, but I think we still, as an industry and as a profession, we don't do this very well. So examples of short-term goals. So we would classify anything that has a 7-year or less time horizon. So because most of you are financial planners, I can share the inside secret on why we use 7 years. We use 7 years because behind this, we're going to end up with an action plan. So we're going to go wish list to goals board to action plan. The action plan is going to tell them to invest their monthly savings or use some of their existing savings to put towards that goal. We have options, cash, property, and shares that we can use. And I don't care what structure, and I don't care whether it's a hybrid or an ETF or any of that sort of stuff. Those are the asset classes, cash, property, and shares. Property and shares, as we know, are better suited for medium to longer term investments, and cash is better suited for short-term investments. As a business, we've agreed on a house view that short-term goals that have a time horizon of less than 7 years, we are never going to recommend the client uses property or shares as the vehicle to save for those goals, ever. That's our risk model. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that's not the point. The point is that you have a time frame, and then you link that time frame back to your goal planning process, and then the client walks through that logic with you. We are very upfront in explaining this to our clients, and then we've linked it into our investment philosophy, which is documented both in the financial planning process and, funnily enough, in the statement of advice process, and the client understands and walks through the whole way. So that's the reason why we've got the 7 years there. So examples for your short-term goals: save for a big holiday, start or expand your family, buy your first or next property, renovate your home or property, change your career, start a side hustle. Definitely to be treated as separate amounts and things they're allowing in their budget. So holidays is a big one here. I hear it all the time, clients going, oh, we're going to do a $6 or an $8 grand holiday, and they've already allocated $2 or $3 grand in their holiday budget. they are spending that holiday budget 9 times out of 10. So we want them to go with the process of allocate a goal that has a $6,000 target, being the holiday, leave the $2,000 to $3,000 in your existing holiday budget. And if the savings number allows that to fit, then good. If not, then and only then do you go and add back, because shit's going to come up. They're going to go, Christmas is going to get spent. All these things are going to be there, right? Delene, I'm going to walk you through the exact process in a second around when do we do values and when do we do goals. So that's it on short-term goals. Medium-term goals, again, for us, we define this as any goal that sits in your time horizon between 7 years and retirement. And we define retirement as the age they're eligible to access their retirement funds. So pretty much it's between 7 years and turning age 65, because that's what the majority of our clients are because of the age before they get access to it. Even if they got access to it earlier, we'd still push it out to age 65 because we want to be conservative. So what we're trying to do here is internally have a process that makes it easy for us to link our financial planning and our advice into the goal planning. From a client's point of view, we're trying to give them separation points: short-term, medium-term, long-term. Long-term becomes retirement. We'll talk about that in a second. So 90%, 95%, especially for younger clients, in 10 years of doing this with hundreds of clients, we have never had any of our clients ask us to do for a retirement goal, other than the one that I'm about to show you now. They don't want to do any retirement planning, the younger ones. They don't want to talk about whether they want to live in Del Boca Vista or go on a bloody scenic tours cruise down through, I don't know, Alaskan rivers. That'd be beautiful. I mean, let's be honest, that stuff's amazing, but they don't talk about it. So it's all going to be short-term, medium-term. So helping them separate between the two is really important. So examples, say for the next big holiday, expand the family, set aside money to pay for private education, buy your next property, renovate your home or your property, change your career, reduce your workload, retire early. So look at these goals here. Not all of these have a financial product attached to them. Not all of these need to go into a statement of advice on their own, but 9 times out of 10 they might. You might bundle them in there. But financial planning, these are the things that they actually want a lot of help with. And traditionally, as an industry, we're not very good at all of these, especially the private education stuff. We need to do a lot more work around education funding and understanding not just the funding models themselves, but understanding how to help clients make decisions. Who, again, hit me in the chat box. Who loves it when their clients come in and one's gone to a private school, one's gone to a public school, and the biffo starts between whether little Jimmy or little Wendy is going to be wearing a blazer or not. And I don't care how we're going to pay for it, right? This stuff happens all the time. And yes, we know how we're going to help them fund it, but having a process to help them work through how they're going to decide is equally, if not more important. Long-term, as I said, is retirement goals. So here we're focused on exclusively stuff around retirement. So examples are how much you want / need to fund your retirement. If you wanted to and you've got older clients and they want to focus on extra travel plans, that's fine. Money you want to set aside for inheritance or early inheritance, property upgrades, downsizes. Back in medium term, I forgot to add in, early retirement planning is not included in retirement planning for us. So if the clients have a get stuff, boss, I'm out of here, I want to bail at 55 fund, that's early retirement planning for us. That's medium term. We don't link it to, we flip it. So that's a cash investment pool that'll get drawn down until they open up their retirement fund. So just split out the two. So we, in our scenarios, have with every single one of our clients a minimum retirement goal that your money outlives you, and you assume your expenses are higher than the average and you outlive your life expectancy by 10 years using the youngest person. So again, hopefully you've got a default model for how you do your retirement planning. But for us with our clients, because of the average age, we then say with them in the goal planning session, if through our financial analysis, we can show you that your retirement, based on the projections, conservatively will land somewhere between what the government says is a conservative number and your actual spending figure, excluding your debt and your child-related costs, would you be happy if that's all we talk about for retirement for now? And in 10 years, guess what they all say? Out of doing this 100 times, yep, and that's it. That's the end of your retirement planning conversation. So again, for younger clients, you've got to have more to go to than superannuation and retirement and all that sort of stuff. But that's our retirement planning. Okay, into the process itself. So step 1, wish list. Step 2, goals board. Step 3, action plan. I'm going to keep moving to make sure that we finish this thing on time. Wish list. Wish list is an opportunity to be optimistic on what they want to achieve. So you're going to help them get to a point where they have to be realistic, but don't be negative Nelly from the outset. In our experience of having done this, most clients are able, and I know you guys are probably the same, most clients are able to achieve more than what they think. And we're all the byproducts of our parents. We learn goal planning from our parents. And we don't do it properly. There's no, like, our parents don't have a structured process for teaching us how to plan for goals, but we're either ridiculously optimistic parents, super conservative parents, or somewhere in the middle. That's going to influence the way these people do this. So if you've got a negative Nelly that always plans for the worst, hope for the best, then you've got to drag them up to that optimistic point to start with, and then help them work down to where they can actually land, which is the realistic middle ground. Wish list allows them to do that. It allows them to get all their goals out in writing, even if they can't achieve them right now. And the thing with your wish list is you don't need to make every wish list item land onto your goals board. Only some of them need to. And I'll show you that in a second. So it allows, and that's in your goal planning presentation. It allows you to get on the same page with your partner without arguing over the number. So huge benefit here. You don't want them in the goal planning session going the biff again, verbally, obviously they're not physically going the biff, hopefully, over whether they spend X amount of money on a house or not, whether they spend so much on private education or not. Do we really need to allocate? Do you really need to allocate? All that sort of stuff. You don't want them doing that in the goal planning session. And so if they're having that argument there, it makes it really difficult. What you want them doing is having that argument at home before you. So they do that when they're putting it on the wish list. You give them a little bit more grace to be able to say things like, guys, look, if in doubt, go with the bigger number in the shorter time frame, and then we'll work our way through it. And you get them to be as specific as possible. So what, when, how much. Wish list. And I'll show you when they complete this before they come through. So goal setting is next. Sorry, goals board is next. That's the end of our wish list. Okay, so goals board is about prioritizing the goals with the objective of narrowing it down into an actionable set of timeframes and an actionable set of goals. Sorry. So I'm going to show you the goals board in a second, and we split it up between short-term, medium-term, long-term, and then want to have and must have. And I'll show you this. Not everything, as I said, not everything on the wish list has to go into the goals board, and we don't want them sitting on the fence. And here is where we actually want them doing preferably one version, but you can get away with two. So let me just show you the goals board and look at the amazing graphics that are on this thing. I spent literally tens of cents in PowerPoint marketing to make this thing look amazing. Now, what you can't see over on the left, maybe if I go out of full screen for a second, I know I've stopped sharing, so just give me 2 seconds and I'll drag. It's not there. That's annoying. Hang on. Okay, I'm just going to go back to screen 2 and I'll share that with you. Okay, what you're not seeing, all these little things are just blocks. And in your goal planning, in the presentation, I've literally just got these and they're all sitting off to the side. Oh no, they're the idiot, Crawford. Seriously, who lets me do anything? Okay, come on, mate, get it right. There we go. This is what happens when I drive and try and run it myself. Get rid of that. Okay, can you guys see? Yes, I know you can. All these ones down the side. This is all the wish list items. So the client's filled out the wish list, and all I've done is transfer all the wish list items into these little boxes. They're the goals. So in the session, what we're doing is we're dragging them and dropping them in neutral town, which is halfway in between want to have and must have. And then here's how complicated it gets. I say to the clients, all right, up, down, left or right. And we just start moving the thing until it lands where it needs to land. And it's amazing. You do the first one, it's always the most difficult because they don't have anything else to reference it off. By the time they've got 2 on there, it starts to get easier. And by the time they're all on there, they actually find it really easy to just start saying, oh, well, is the car lease more important than the investment property? Is the Harley, well, the Harley, get the Harley off. That's not happening. And that gets dragged back over there. Travel overseas, oh, that's there. Maybe, well, that's more important. And here's where the values start to kick back in. So you can see down here, I've got values. And guys, if you've got any questions, because I know I'm going quite quickly, let me know. What we're now doing is we're linking the values through. So you can either type the full one, the full value in here, and it might be leisure, or if they've got lots, you can use, the first letter, F for family, L for leisure, C for comfort, all those types of different things in there. And this is the interactive bit, and this is the bit, as ugly and as old school as it is, this is the bit that they actually love. Now I'm going to try and go back to full screen. Hopefully that still works. Hopefully, are you guys still getting the full screen on screen 2 with the PowerPoint slide? Yep, thanks, Alison. And Danielle. Okay, so that is your goals board. That's what's sitting there, okay? And it's pretty easy to, we spend so much time and effort and money and worrying about all our technology. And I'm don't get me wrong, I love tech as much as the next guy does. But this is a shit PowerPoint presentation with some boxes that I've put text in. And our clients, our prospective clients, love this more than anything else. You know why? Because for 5 years before they saw us, or for 10 years before they saw us, they've tried to do all of this crap themselves and it's ended in a fight. Or one person's always won and the other one feels ripped off. This is one of the most valuable things you will do. And by giving them structure and control, you're not telling them where to put, so right tip, never tell them where the goals go. All you're doing is just moving it around. And finally, never let them do this. No fence sitting. This is halfway in between want to have and must have. Make them move it up. I don't mind sitting on the fence that goes left and right. I'm looking over here at my other screen. Yeah. Best polished turd I've ever seen. Thanks, Mikey. Okay. I don't mind sitting on time horizon fences, not want to have, must have. Commit already, move on, which brings us into our action plan. So this is all about taking action clearly, as it says. Specifically, you want to know which goals are they going to target over the next 12 months. And the reason why you're doing this is, you want to link it into your 12-month budget with them. Income in, expenses out, savings down the bottom. How are you going to divvy that saving stuff up to allow them to be able to split it into the different goals that they're working towards? What's coming in on the plan for now and what's being left for later. This also ties into your statement of advice around anything that is being scoped out for future consideration. Each goal that makes the action plan must have a clearly defined plan, all right? So you're working backwards from the goal. A property purchase renovation plan, an early retirement plan, maybe it might be a school funding plan or a Kickstarter plan. We do a lot of Kickstarter plans with our clients that aren't committed on schools, but they want their kids to have money when they hit 21. Yes, Bill, I'm going to walk through the process now before we get there, right? So make sure all of your goals get included. And here's the slide that you'll see in your deck. Choose the goals they're going to work towards this year. Determine how much they need to contribute each month. Really important point, where's it going to go, right? So I'm not giving them advice here. I'm not telling them that they're going to use bank accounts or shares or managed funds. I'm saying logically, it needs to land somewhere and we're going to make recommendations around that. Importantly, we want them to understand they need to deal with their shortfalls. So are they going to use bonuses, tax returns, reduce their spending, or push out their target date, or a combination of those 4 things? All of this we're explaining in the goal planning session. We're not giving them the action plan in the goal planning session. We're telling them we can help you develop the action plan. And as you see when you download the PowerPoint slides, we charge $500 per goal to develop an action plan for it. So that's what we're doing. We're showing them, we might elaborate a little bit around the theory behind how they would do it, education fund, how they would do the property purchase or the repayment time frame, how to pay the loan off in 15 years instead of 30. We might talk about all that stuff. We're not going to give everything away. All right, process. And I'm going to come back to all the questions later, guys, because I'm conscious of the time now as well. Goal setting process. So this is our high level one. And I'm going to show you when we do it exactly in our process. But this is in the actual goal planning, the goal setting process, right? So we're going to have a video or a pre-meeting call to prepare the client for, obviously, the fact that they're going to do a goal planning session with us. They then book that goal planning session in, and we use online calendar booking software to enable them to do that, whether it's a live one or a virtual one. Interesting side fact, there is now no preference for face-to-face versus virtual, meaning when I started, I thought everybody would only ever do goal planning sessions live. Now our clients, our prospective clients, don't care. They're quite happy to do it either way. Yes, that might be generational, but that's just the reality of it now. So setting yourself up to run it virtually and face-to-face is really important. So if you don't use things like Zoom, you got to get around. I know I'm like a broken record with this. Get around it. You need to be able to do this. Send prospect client wish list and budget planner to return 48 hours before. So anyone that's done spending coach, you know you've got the budget planner. If you haven't, let me know if you're interested. The wish list goes out to them as well. So they get that, they complete the wish list, which is just a Word document. And if you want a copy of the wish list, I didn't include it in the download. I'll go and I can't add 2 files, I can only add 1. Send me an email after this, Steve at Advice Movement, at the Advice Movement. I'll put it in here now at the advicemovement.com, and I'll send you the wish list. It's literally a Word document with some tables that goes what, when, how much, details, right? It's not hard to create. They have to send it back to us 48 hours beforehand. The reason why we send them and we force them to send a budget planner as well is we use it to do some high level modeling, a comparison on in the goal planning session. Here's what you look like compared to our average client peer group. So we're doing the goal planning with them, and we want to be able to be prepared to do that, but we also want to give them a little bit more information. I haven't gone through that in detail today because today's about the goal planning, but you can have a goal planning session that also then adds in some of your, I know some of you call it like a strategy session. You might be talking through some numbers at a really high level. If you want to do that, I encourage you to do it. If you just want to do goal planning on its own, you can. My experience tells me that at some point you need to link it to tangible numbers and their likelihood that they can achieve some of these goals or not. So I'd definitely be adding it in. So prepare any of your modeling or your comparisons beforehand. Prepare your goals board. I showed you how to do that. Prepare your presentation. You'll see the presentation. We've got this. We do a screen grab of their budget, their benchmark comparison. We do a screen grab of their current projected mortgage repayment. Now, again, our licensee, which is us, has determined that this is not financial advice. It is just comparison modeling, so a calculator. So there's a disclaimer in there that says, based on what you told us in your budget, if you just allocated all your savings to your home loan, it'd be gone in X number of years. So we're doing a little bit in there in terms of numbers. Then we run the session live or via Zoom. If it's done via Zoom, we always record it and we send them the recording plus the PDF version of the slides with our schedule of fees and our engagement letter. But you'll see in the presentation, we put all our fees in up front. So they're knowing all of this stuff before they get there. And they're knowing some other stuff beforehand as well. So this is our, we call it the entertainment schedule. This is the slide I grabbed from a presentation I did with at the IFA thingy, one of their days. Anyway, I was talking about using video and virtual meetings in your advice process and trying to create a personal Netflix channel for your clients. So here, this is our onboarding process. So client goes from a phone call, which is now these days even run by Zoom. So we don't even, it shows you how we evolve. We don't even do these by phone anymore. The only time we do it by phone is if they call us first. But if we get an email or a referral in, we'll trigger a Zoom call and then we'll record the Zoom call as well. 15 minutes script. What do you want help with? What goals do you want to achieve? What headaches have you got? Explain our process. Our process then goes into, they get a video from us called Our Purpose, Philosophy and Process. It's on our YouTube channel. It goes for 7.5 minutes. It explains everything that we do, what we believe in, why we exist, and how it's going to work. It explains what they're going to get in their goal planning session, and I'll show you these slides in a second. And it tells them they're going to pay $220 for that. And then if they want to keep going, then they go into our normal financial planning and lending process, money management, insurance and super and estate planning, goal action plan into their financial advice, their statement of advice. Okay, so we show them all of this stuff and tell them this is how it's going to work. After that initial call, when they're booking their goal planning session, we give them this document, which is a PDF, again, built out of PowerPoint. It's not even 16:9 ratio, it's 4:3. Like, this stuff is terrible from a marketing point of view, but it does the job. We've had our phone call, Mr. and Mrs. Client, no cost to you. Next, you book your goal planning session, 90 minutes, either done in our office or online. That's $220. From there, you can bugger off and do it by yourself. Best of luck. This year, we are launching our DIY financial plan online course. So we might still get paid anyway. Anyone coming to LTMA, I can teach you how to do that. Or you come on board and you work with us. So we're walking them through this process. Then we send in that same presentation, they get, here's what you're getting for your $220. A clear understanding of your shared values, a future map of your lifestyle and financial goals ordered by importance and stress tested against those values. And you can see this, how your budget compares against our experienced wealth coach clients. Now, I would edit this before I send it. Clearly, I'm not saying couples or families. I either know if they're a couple or a family. A projection on when you're likely to pay your home loan off, because 95% of our clients have property and debt and they want to get rid of their mortgage, and a 90-minute coaching session around best practice. So what we're trying to do here is to show them and say to them, guys, we're going to help you with the goal stuff. We're also going to show you how we help everybody else just like you, but we're going to use the medium of goals as the process through which we share our knowledge, our insights, our skill set. And we've done it in a way that is the most anti-financial planning industry perception, because they think all we're going to do is talk about super funds and insurance products. And that's just the reality. Even if they're referred in, they still don't trust that we're not one of those dodgy financial planners. So drag them all the way to the other end, to where they want to be anyway, talking about their goals, talking about their headaches, and helping them understand not just what to do, but the logic behind how you would help them actually through that process. I want to go to our second poll now before I close things out. And I'm going to go stop showing. Oh God, have I been showing those results the whole time? You guys should have told me if that was in the road. Hopefully you could have gotten rid of it, gotten rid of that. All right, so we're into a post-Royal Commission world. Can't wait for that. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. For our business, really quick, 2 questions here, guys, and this is a bit of factual questioning. What do you think this, being a goal planning session, will do for your conversion rate? So goal planning sessions 2, so you add it in, is it going to help your conversions, or is it going to reduce your conversions based on your current process now? So I'm talking about your full prospecting process, adding in your meetings at the start, whether you're giving it all away for free. By chucking this in, do you think it's going to have an improvement? It's going to help you out. Second question, from a client's point of view, what percentage of your prospective clients do you think will value paying a small fee for a goal planning session before engaging in full financial planning, i.e., can they try before they buy? So we'll just wait while those while those answers start to come through. And I love the honesty. Someone said no noticeable change at all, which is good. Well, hopefully you've already got a good conversion rate, and that's the reason why. But pretty much everyone thinks it's either going to be a slight increase in conversions, and we'll close that one off, and I'll share those results. Yeah, the vast majority, as we thought, slight increase in conversions or a big increase in conversions. And that's what we experienced. Yes, you are going to have a lower conversion in your phone call, Zoom call to goal planning, because someone that's not going to pay you $5,000 or $3,000 or $2,000 or $4,000, they're not even going to pay you $220. And that's great, because all you're burning is 15 minutes with them. You're not burning 2.5 hours. So you're going to see a lower conversion in your prospecting, but in your paid prospecting to full fee, you'll absolutely see an increase in your conversions. And that really bolsters your confidence too. When you go in there knowing they've already paid $220. which means that they're serious about doing this, serious enough to pay $220. So I'm not worried about whether this person's a tire kicker or not. The only challenge I now have, are we the right firm to help them with their financial planning? Is our process right? And what percentage do we think are going to value it? Yeah, 50 to 75% is the majority, 75 to 100. And again, I think this is demographic as well. I think the younger ones are just used to paying for this stuff now. Like, not for paying for financial planning, but they pay for stuff if they want help. They pay for personal coaches, they pay for food coaches, they pay for style coaches, they pay for all this other stuff. You're just a financial coach, $220. Let's see whether you're any good. And if you're any good, then I'll come on board. They're in the market, they're looking for it. So guys and girls, I've got some questions that are going to start firing through now, which is fantastic. And for those of you that want to hang around, I can't believe I've actually done a presentation and stuck to time. This has got to be a record for me. Okay, so we have some links in here now to go and grab and I've already put that link in the chat box. So that's there if you want the slides and you came in late, just scroll back up the chat box to go and grab those links. I'm putting a bonus offer today. Now, I know some of you have already registered to LTMA 19. So if you have, I'll be nice. I'm going to give you a bonus coaching call as well. Don't tell anybody else. You have to have been on this webinar. And I know if you're on the webinar because your name's there. But if you haven't registered for LTMA 19 yet, and you want to come and hang out with myself and a bunch of other coaches that are going to be talking about this stuff and a whole heap of other 21st century advice using video, automating advice processes, referral networks, strategy, heaps of stuff, marketing, all of that, come and hang out with us. But before we get to that, make sure you, after today, just think about how a goal planning session can add value in your business and for your clients. I will stop showing those results so I can see my screen. I'll get rid of my poll. Download the goal planning session template, email me if you want that wish list. It's much easier to edit than it is to create. And then I would love to see you all at LTMA 19. All right, let's go through the questions first. So I'm going to go back up to the start and then down we go. Okay, first one, I reckon it was Daniel Twentyman. Okay, I'm still going to get you that budget planner report thing as well. I'm slightly swamped at the moment. Do you incorporate a simple budget and generally banking structure, or leave that for future advice? Are we talking about in the goal planning session? We show them a template. So you'll see in the goal planning session slides, we've got the template banking flow chart in there. Here's what we do for a typical couple, typical family, typical single. And we're using the ones from our vault and we're putting it in there. We're not doing it with them in the goal planning session. They get their budget tailored in their money management plan that they're paying you around about $500 to $1,000 for. Don't give them everything. All you've got to show them is you know how to do it. And importantly, it's got to be tailored to the people like them. So if you're putting comparisons in for the budget, make sure you drop down to the couples or the singles or the families when you send it to them, and then give them that comparison. For the banking structure, again, just give them the one that's relevant to them. All right, next question. Delene, no, that was just a statement. Thanks for that. Kim, does the process change for retirees or clients in their 50s? I would love to help you, but my oldest client is 52. I have no idea what people older than 52 actually do. I would imagine that they're probably more inclined to want to see you face to face. I think that's the only part of the process that would change. I don't think a goal planning approach is a negative thing for anybody. The types of their goals will change. Maybe the quantum of their goals will change. And therefore, it might be easier for them to decide. I'm sort of just spitballing here. I think they might have less goals. They probably ticked a lot of their goals off, and they might have less of a challenge of prioritizing. But the process of walking through what's important to you, what are your goals, and now let's stress test those values and link them to the goals, I think that works for everybody. They might want to do more face-to-face, but let them tell you. Okay, we've got Q&A. What do you use to, so Grant, what do you use to do your modeling after the goal planning session? We use Midwinter's Advice OS. That's our number one provider and chosen software for doing all of our financial planning modeling. Now, I think a couple of you, hopefully that answers that one. I've got answer live. We've got any other questions? I know a couple of you might have stuck your hands up. Pat Flynn, we're going to allow you to talk. So you can turn your microphone off mute, mate. If you want to go to a live question, I should be able to unmute you.
Oh, hey, mate.
Good to go, mate. Do you want to ask that question, Mike?
No, you already covered. It's all good. Thanks, mate.
I've already covered it.
Yeah, great.
Helps if I take my headphones on. Okay, well, there you go. Thanks for that. That was
Good
easy.
job.
No worries. And we're going to lower hands. And there's any other questions? Okay. Right. So, Rob, how do we claim a session we've already registered for LTMA? Rob, just flick me an email and I'll know that it's you, and we'll do that one-on-one session. That is fine. Kim's got another question. Do you ever get resistance from clients to do a goal planning session when all they want is to sort out their super, get insurance, buy a house? No, is the simple answer. They might be, and maybe we don't know. So our process is, and this is where we're a little bit different, we don't want to do one-off advice. We're not interested in someone that just wants to get their insurance sorted. Now, if somebody just wants to do mortgage broking, that's fine. We've got that opportunity. But if they just want insurance or they just want super, we don't do that. And the reason why we don't do that is for our business and our pricing, we've run those costs at the lowest possible level with a small to non-existent profit margin on it. It's just not valuable for us to do it as a business. So we might not get, you might not get that stuff in your business because you might be a little bit different. But for us, there's just no value for us to do it that way. If any of you are, hopefully that answers that question, Kim. If any of you are having challenges getting the PowerPoint slides, check your junk email. And if you're still not getting it, then I will go in and I'll change one setting and you can try that link again later. Any other questions? I think we've got one more. No, I've done that one. That's it. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging with me for an hour and a couple of minutes. As always, okay, the slides worked for some and didn't work for others. All right, Alison's still here. Was that a question? But I suppose that many have already shown. No, that's just a statement. Delene found it. This is why you don't run this on your own, because then the coach is not talking. Thanks so much for hanging. For those of you that are joining us at LTMA, I'll see you in a few weeks' time. For those of you that can't make it, we are going to have virtual passes, so hopefully we can see you there virtually after the event. Guys, we're going to have another webinar in 2 weeks. We're going to try and do this every 2 weeks, and I'll send details about that. But it's Ben Martian from the FPA and Alistair Barr from Grad Mentor. And the session is going to be interestingly called Going Back to School. How the hell do you make a decision on what you're going to do post-Royal Commission? So we're going to get into that stuff. Thanks for hanging. Have a great afternoon, and I will see you in the Facey group and at our next webinar.